Mila Kunis and Michelle Williams. And producer Joe Rock will be joining us in a moment.
Hi everybody, thank you for having us here. We're honored to be part of the press conference, and hope you feel comfortable asking us anything about our picture. Lots of great and powerful.
We'll take the first question right here on the left.
All the way on your left, Mr. Raimi. Hi. You showed with the Spider-Man movies that you have a great way of being able to stay true to the source material and have the Sam Raimi touches we love, whether it's the sort of camera work or the sense of humor you injected in. How are you able to bring those elements to Oz as well, so keeping it sort of an Oz we know from the books or other movies?
Well, we're, as opposed to the camera just doing a lot of gymnastics for thrill and chill's sake, we're really trying to describe the fantastic world of Oz. And I think the camera, when the camera is moving, those more dramatic types of movements are to show the depth of a canyon in Oz, or the height of a waterfall, or what it's like to soar with Glinda in her bubbles above the beautiful environments that were created by our production designer, Robert Stromer. So the camera is used, and its movement is used to describe the beauty and the fantastic qualities of this impossible place. Did that answer the question?
Yes, and a sense of humor.
Yes, there's a sense of humor, but I think it comes from the whimsical nature of Baum's great world and from the characters, primarily from the characters. We have a main character, James Franco, who is a little selfish as the story begins, and as he runs up against those he admires, such as, at some point, it's primarily Glinda. His shortcomings are often a source of the humor.
Joe Rock is joining us, and the next question is all the way over on the left.
Hi. Just to sort of follow up on that, does anybody get their head smashed through repeated panes of glass? And also, actually, my real question is, after doing Drag Me to Hell, which is such a great movie, but maybe wasn't received as well, did you take any lessons away from that, sort of combining the idiosyncrasies of a movie like that with something that is more like a larger, more sort of tableau kind of storytelling?
Well, I learned a lot from every movie that I make. I learned what not to do. I make 1,000 mistakes. I'm painfully aware of them. It's not like you have to recognize, what was my mistake here? I'm always aware of where I make wrong moves. So it's helped me moving forward. I try and take that, and I've learned a lot of lessons, and I went forward with this picture with those thousands of lessons from that picture. But I can't think of specifically the type of comedy that film was, that dark comedy, is just a completely different thing than this film. So this is a very straightforward family picture. I would say it's a very classically Disney type of movie. And it really is all about these characters and their interactions with each other, the friendships they make, how some characters are sinners, how they hurt others, how those sins can grow, and it's about finally recognizing the things you do in this world have consequences, and how to be the best person you can be is really the story of this film. It's about recognizing those mistakes we made and moving on past them and growing into something better than you were when you started out. That's the most exciting type of stories for me, is the ones with some amount of a little bit of character growth. And I think James Franco's character has a little bit of growth in this story.
Next question is over here in the front row, way on the left.
Hey guys, Mark Walters of BigFanboy.com. Michelle and Mila, I was wondering if you could tell me, what is it like working with a cinematic genius like Sam Raimi? And Sam, what's it like working with two of the most beautiful women in the world?
Wow. It's great. It's great to work with them because they're great actresses. I mean, as beautiful as they are, that would simply just become meaningless if they weren't brilliant actresses, and that's what we need for the story. They both have very complex roles and complex interactions with the other characters in the piece, and they just do a beautiful job performing them. It's very funny and realistic, and they're a pleasure to watch. And yes, they're not hard on the eyes, I suppose.
Listen, Sam is fantastic. I don't know where to begin. I would do craft service for Sam if you asked me to.
Craft service.
He is probably one of the funniest, sweetest, most gentle human beings that I've ever had the pleasure of working with. Aside from being incredibly talented, he is so sincere about the projects that he chooses and the people that he casts, and he's so supportive of everybody around him, of his crew, most importantly, and of his cast, that he is incredibly inspiring to work with, and you go to work and you want to make him happy. And I think that having that every day on a 17-hour long day is the greatest gift you can give anybody.
Thank you. Let's see you top that.
I have a little video presentation. You got the cinematic genius part right, and I've never made a movie like this before. I've never made such a big movie before, and I didn't know what it was going to be like. I didn't know if the things that interested me and the things that concerned me Sam would have time for or patience for. And not only did he have time and patience for them at the beginning when we were rehearsing, but he has time and patience for them on the 17th hour of the 6th day. And I found in you.
Thank you.
Such a collaborator and a friend and a confidant and a partner in everything. And I felt like it was for me, it was like a very holistic experience. It was a real melding of my work life and my personal life, my film family and my real family.
Thank you.
In the front row here in red.
Right. My question is for Mila Kunis. You're obviously playing this character who's been represented in film, books, and animation so many different times. And so I was curious, are you paying homage to these characters? Are you drawing inspiration from these different iterations? Or are you putting your own great spin on it? So
I don't know. I wish you could answer that question. I honestly don't know. No, I wasn't paying homage to it because you can't. I mean, you really, without giving away exactly what my character is, you never replicate it. Nor would you ever want to. I mean, she's so iconic and so fantastic in her own right that when I tell you I was scared going into it is an understatement. And truly, I was frightened because what do? You know what I mean? So the only thing that I could do is try to be as honest to the character as I possibly could, and I was given a gift by Sam of having a backstory as to why she is the way that she is. And so I went in playing her as real as possible, and as long as you believe it and I believe it, hopefully, everybody else will believe it.
thank you.
Standing way in the back.
By stepping into the world of Oz, obviously you step into the shadow of one of the most beloved movies ever. What's it like working? Is it a little bit of extra pressure having to live up to what the original Wizard of Oz was? Or what's it like stepping into that world that's just magical and it's pretty much everybody for generations and generations?
Well, we all love the Wizard of Oz movie ourselves. I mean, we're very careful not to tread on it or we were careful to respect it. But really ours is a different story. It's a story that leads up to the Wizard of Oz. It's a story of how the wizard came from Kansas to the land of Oz and how a slightly selfish man became a slightly more selfless man. And it's a story of how he became the wizard. It's a fantastic story that answers that question, in case any of you had that question. But it's not really remaking the Wizard of Oz, so it wasn't a problem that we had to deal with. We just nodded lovingly toward it and went ahead and telling our own story. Our producer, Joe Roth, was a great aid in that. He has a lot of experience in creating fantastic worlds. He did the great Tim Burton picture Alice, and he and our production designer, Robert Stromberg, together really created an original vision of what Baum's work could be on the big screen. Often, I wish we could have used the Emerald City from the original Wizard of Oz. We didn't have legally the right to do that, or use the red slippers, or a lot of other iconic elements from the 1939 film, but that was okay in the end because we really were trying to tell our own story, an original story, nodding lovingly toward the Wizard of Oz. Joe, you care to answer that question better?
Yeah, it's a prequel. The challenge is, obviously, we're doing nothing like the 1939 movie, and I think this is the first time we're talking to anybody about the film, and there's a lot of curiosity about it. So none of us would try to remake the 1939 movie. But the question in the later bound book of who was that guy and why was he behind the curtain, which he was just in the 1939 movie, like 3 minutes, that seemed like an irresistible place to start. So in the simplistic parlance of movies, it's a prequel, not a remake.
All the way over on the right.
Thank you all for coming. Sam, thank you for all your great work over the years in the Spider-Man films. Who is Bruce Campbell playing in this movie, perhaps? The mayor of Huntingtonland or a gnome king? And will the great Ted Raimi also be appearing in this movie?
Yes, Ted plays, my little brother Ted plays a tiny part, otherwise my mother would have my hand. And Bruce Campbell, unfortunately, is in the movie. He plays a bit part, because he was busy working, so he took I think he was shooting his TV show, so he took a day off and came down and just did a tiny little, like a few line role for us. But it's a tiny little cameo, he's fun, really fun watching the picture. He did a great job. You can't take it for yourself. You gotta see the picture.
Seated in the back.
Hi, Sam. As every film is definitely a new challenge and an evolution for you, what sort of technological challenges did you have to overcome in this film?
Well, this was the first picture that I have ever had the opportunity to shoot in 3D, so I had to learn a lot about the process of 3D, how you light it and how you shoot it, and what works and what doesn't, and what convergence is of the different lenses. I had to technologically learn quite a bit. And then there's a whole language of cutting that's different in 3D. Your eye takes a little while to get used to one particular convergence, and you can't quite cut as freely as you used to, nor do you want to, I found, I'm still learning about it, change the convergence too often. You don't want to be focusing on somebody in a great distance, and then in the next cut, come to the foreground and then go to the distance again. It takes a moment for the audience to pick up and feel comfortable with where that convergence is. So it changes the pacing of the cutting, it changes the way the shots are constructed, and so I had to learn a lot in this picture technologically, bringing the Land of Oz to life.
I think one of the things that Sam also had to learn was patience, because this cast, I've never seen anything like it in my life. Michelle was busy promoting Marilyn, so she was off doing that 3 or 4 times. Mila was off doing Ted, or back and forth. And then James was getting whatever degree he was getting. And Rachel was doing porn at the same time. We actually shot half of her part, and then she went off to do porn. And every day, falling off a motorcycle or whatever, but it all worked out and it all came back. So it was kind of an amazing shuffling of the deck. Kind of fun. Every time I heard Harvey Weinstein's voice, I know, oh my God, I gotta chill out again.
In the blue shirt.
For Mila and Michelle, everybody's kind of grown up with the 1939 movie, and so I'm curious, one, what you might have loved about that when you've seen it throughout the years, and then what did you get excited about when you got exposed to the real Baum mythology, like where it all sprang from?
One of the first films I ever saw in the States in 1991 was Wizard of Oz. It was probably the first movie as a kid that I truly gravitated towards and loved so much so that my parents, in the process of me learning English, decided to get me to Return to Oz, that book, as my very first book to read in English, as like the first real book. Not as a picture book, but like a real book. So I do have a weird connection to the original Wizard of Oz, including the original books. That's the first book that I read.
I mean, before I read, my association with the movie is probably like everyone in this room's association with the movie. You see it over and over again when you're a kid. And so to think that for this moment in time, your life is intersecting with, you get to walk in the footsteps of this very beloved character, it feels like a real honor. And then to get to know the world and the language and the characters more deeply after you read the books. You know, there's a lot in the books that are used in this movie, but there's also, you know, a screenwriter's imagination at work. But I did read them very carefully and with a highlighter and underlining things about, you know, Linda, sort of turns of phrases that she might use or how she would wear her hair. So I found them very useful.
Neil.
Hi, I'm a huge fan of yours, sister. All yours is all really awesome. I want to know how you got your mind around the Oz Great and Powerful, since it's quite a bit of a departure from the films that you normally do.
Oh, how you get your mind around the Oz Great and Powerful?
Yes, I'm sorry.
Because, what do you mean?
It's like, for me, when I think of you, I think of for me, it's Spider-Man.
Oh,
That's what I think of. And so it doesn't look to me that it's going to be like Spider-Man. It looks like it's just totally different from any of the other films I've seen you do.
You're right, it's absolutely different than anything I've ever done before. I had never made a family picture. You know, I guess you could call the Spider-Man family pictures. But basically those are action love stories. And this was just a completely different, otherworldly experience for me. I never tried it before, and I didn't know if I could do it. But I so loved the screenplay, I was so moved by it at so many different points, and I really enjoyed the goal of telling an uplifting story. And what's uplifting about it is that the character learns to be a better person. So those things seemed right to me. It felt like a great challenge. I was excited by it. I wanted to see the movie. And more than anything, I think that's what gives you the strength to think you can direct a movie. If you want to see it and you understand the characters, then I think that's what it is for me. And that's how it was for me reading this. If you understand the characters, and I didn't understand them all completely, you know, it's a learning process with the actors on set. But nevertheless, when you read the script, you think you have an understanding of it, and then you know how to direct them. That's all that it is really, is if you know the characters, you can direct it. So that's what gives you strength, and that's what told me I'd like to direct this picture.
And on the left here.
Hi, so I have a question for Sam. When James Franco was promoting Rise of the Planet of the Apes, I asked him how he felt he's changed as an actor now that he's gone to film school. And he said that doing a movie like that gave him a new appreciation for visual effects, etc. Can you talk a little bit about how you think he's evolved as an actor since last time you worked with him, he wasn't doing, he wasn't a director per se, and how you think that what he brings to the table for this character may have been affected by the fact that he is a filmmaker now.
Yes, he's a great collaborator, like these two ladies are. I don't think they're filmmakers. Maybe you guys are, I don't know. Are you filmmakers? Well, for me, James was very much less collaborative when I first started working with him. He was a real serious actor. I think he still had his James Dean hat on, and he was doing it his way. And so, yeah, I worked with him with certain limitations, that we couldn't communicate about everything as deeply as we eventually did on this picture. So I think James, and I don't know if that's just a result of James's growth as an individual, or whether a director just has a much deeper relationship with their leading man or leading ladies than they do with the best friend character who is played. But either way, what I did detect was a great growing sense of openness, collaboration, and patience. Patience, that's what a filmmaker, Joe said, has to have in buckets of patience. And now that James is a filmmaker, I think he understands all the things that go into a shot, and I think he's developed that patience.
Trying to get to as many of us as we can in the back.
Hi, right here, Sam. My question is for Sam. We didn't see the footage, but I heard that there might be flying monkeys. Could you tell us anything about your flying monkeys, or if there will be, and if there's a backstory with these creatures?
Yes, in the teaser that they showed today, the Wicked Witch has an army of flying baboons, and we saw a glimpse of them today. For our first animation was completed on them. We're actually still developing them. The teaser demanded that they come out right now, so this is the first glimpse of them. We tried to keep it a little darker than I would otherwise. that she has and she commands them to rule over all of us. And there's also a flying monkey in the story. Different than baboons. A nice flying monkey, so don't worry.
On the right there.
Michelle, I was wondering if this, since it's a Disney movie, if this is the first movie your daughter will get to see you act in, and if you think she's going to follow in your footsteps.
She's seen one other movie that I've made. She saw a movie that a very small movie that I made. I think she was one of the only people that saw me cut off. And she sat through it. But this is certainly the one she's the most excited about that I've ever been involved in. And she is, well, she spent 6 or 7 months on this set. You know, she came to visit every day, and it was a real playground for her. And she was, Sam would say, she's my most special and honored guest. Matilda, somebody please bring a chair for her. And so she's sat behind the monitor.
She is the sweetest girl on the planet, you guys. You have no idea. She did a wonderful job raising her.
Yes, she did.
Angel.
Over here, way over here on the left.
Right here. Okay. I have a question for Mila and maybe Michelle could add something. With so much fantasy in your own movies, how much fantasy are being published about your own personal lives?
What's exactly the question? Fantasy movies.
You know what it
fantasy
means.
life. Please reiterate the question so that I answer it properly. I do apologize, I don't fully understand.
Well, the thing is, with so much fantasy in the movies,
Yeah.
how much fantasy is being published about your own personal life?
Oh, has been published about my personal life? Oh, a lot. I have a very exciting personal life in the public's eye. You know, a lot.
Over here on the right side.
This is for Sam. What do you think the big production companies tend to make more and more remakes, prequels, and sequels? And what do you think that does with movies as an art form?
Well, I think I only know what I read in the trade papers, and they say that whatever it is, because they're sure things, not sure things, but less gambles than original work, and the audience seems to enjoy going to them. When they like a character, they want to return to it. So there's a natural desire to see a character they like, come back again and get additional stories. But that's more of a, I think that's a producer question, maybe, you can understand the market. Joe, will you take that one for me?
We don't have enough time. No, sequels are easier to sell. And the breakout hit, that's the real risk for the studios, and generally it takes a filmmaker or a movie star to get that over. So, just like these movies that we've been involved with, they're very expensive movies, and you hope if you get them right, that there's stories of people all over the world, whatever language they speak and however old they are, have some kinship to it. So that's the reason why you take very broadly held material.
Here on the right of the center.
Hi. In addition to the original Wizard of Oz, there's also a very popular Broadway musical, Wicked, that kind of explores the origins of these characters. Was that taken into account when the script was being written or developed?
Joe, you developed the screen.
Yeah, I developed the script. No, we were just using a Bounce book as a Bounce books as a roadmap. And again, we want to stay with the thesis of who was that guy behind the curtain, how did he get there? That's really the central idea.
And we're over here on the left.
Hi again, Michelle. Oh, that's loud. Hi, you mentioned this was the biggest movie of your career. What did you find was the most memorable day-to-day adjustment working on a money no object blockbuster for a change?
Well, as Joe would like to tell you right now, it was a big object.
Money is always an object.
Sorry, what was the biggest adjustment to working on a movie this size? There were more choices on the lunch table. Honestly, I kind of honestly mean that. It really wasn't, it didn't,
I think you were surprised that it wasn't that different.
Yeah, I was. I was really surprised because I haven't, this isn't my territory. Like I said, I haven't made a movie this big before, and I was worried how would I fit? Would I feel comfortable? Would I feel, and I said, I remember I said this day I was starting in rehearsal, I said, this is the most fun experience I've ever had because I'm having so much fun. Because I think that he made this environment where he made you feel like all your ideas were welcome, and he really listened to them and really took them on, and it was such a collaborative experience, and I had a blast. It felt as close-knit as the very small movies that I've made.
Thank you.
Waiting patiently, Aaron Moran.
Hi, this is Terrence from WordSearch.com, and my question is for Mila and Michelle. I know, it's sort of dovetailing off kids, I know that both of you have worked in multiple genres, but what are some of the acting choices or the differences in acting styles when you're working with green screen or 3D as opposed to 2D or film?
You know, I'll tell you, I was a little surprised at the lack of green screen that was used in the film. I mean, as far as like the aspect ratio of things, yes, there's blue screen when you look very far into the distance ultimately. But, you know, in regards to the difference between an independent film and a film like this is the sets. And the sets were so elaborate and so detailed, and they were incredibly tangible. So the flowers that you see, the big, gigantic, oversized flowers, were there. I mean, when you see the film, you'll understand. But I mean, as much green screen as there was, you didn't really need to use that much imagination because it really was built up in front of you. So what I thought was going to be difficult would be that, and it required very little of it. It really did. Robert built magical sets, like the Emerald City was a set, and Linda's Castle was a set, and Whimsy Woods was a set, and the river. I mean, there were so many things. There's a waterfall sequence that you'll ultimately see. That was real. I mean, it's insane what they were able to put into a stage. And I do think that that's probably where most of the money went.
Yeah, because you haven't seen the movie, it's kind of unfair, but I'll try to do it very quickly. In Hollywood, the stage is a certain size. Let's call it this size for the sake of argument. We were in Detroit. We had 7 stages. They were all filled. Each stage was twice the size of a Hollywood stage. So that they were all filled with enormous sets. So in fact, if you thought it was all green screen, it was all those gigantic, fully realized sets.
It was truly magical. Really, really was.
Good time for just one last question, I'm afraid, right here in the front.
Hello, my question is for Michelle. I'm over here. Hello. I just want to say that I love the Mix Cutoff. It's beautiful. It's just gorgeous. And I'm going to ask the question. Everyone's always dying to know Dawson's Creek reunion and when Sam directed.
Yeah, let's do it. Yeah, you're the fan favorite at Dawson's Creek, you and Katie Holmes, right?
The fan favorite?
Oh, I thought you were. I mean, the kids love you in that picture.
Those
That's
kids,
Katie's
those days.
face. But I never saw Dawson's Creek. Much.
I believe the question was from Michelle.
I'm so sorry.
I would very happily do a reunion show. I don't know what it would be. My character died in the end, so there are some limitations for me. It's either that I come back as a ghost, or I'm shot through a lot of like gauzy, hazy light as like my 19-year-old self. So I've always said that I would really love to. And I think independently we've all kind of been saying that. So at some point, I hope that it does happen, and I hope that it's a way to sort of honor the past and what a big deal it was for the 4 or 5 of us, and what a big deal it was for people who loved and watched it.
Thanks, everybody.